Hello, welcome to another Alpha Strike replay video. I'm joined by Tarron.
Hey buddy.
We are talking about water.
Water, we are continuing our terrain torrent and we're going to go with water this time, and water's a big thing.
Water's good for your body and it's good for your games of BattleTech. There you go, bit of health.
Yeah, there you go.
As well.
That's the end. Bye. No. There's a bit more to it than that, but it is cool.
Yeah. Water is very important in your games. Like in modern day warfare, securing water
supply yes.
Well, supply is good, but yeah, it is actually quite handy to have. And in your games of BattleTech, it also offers you a lot of benefits, which we're going to talk about.
Yes, it can also do some very nasty things. So yeah, I suppose we should start with the basic movement stuff.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's in the order.
So terrain will always cost you more movement to move into. So a normal everyday clear hex costs you 1 movement point, but everything that adds to that hex costs you extra. So depth, you can have from depth 0 down to like as far as you want to go, I think.
As far as technology allows you before you get crushed.
Yeah, before you get destroyed completely.
But I think most of the maps, I haven't seen anything that's like more than 3 or 4 or something.
Generally
like that.
speaking, pre-made maps you're not going to get above about 3, well below about 3. Yeah. Feel free to make your own, of course. Of course. So depth 0 is like swampland and stuff, right? And that doesn't have any extra thing for it.
Not for mechs, so we're only talking about BattleMechs in this example, all right, because it's in that. So, but it does affect other things. We will talk about. We're making videos about
over it at some point.
Infantry and.
You can technically get swampland as a listed terrain type, I think, in TAC Ops.
Okay.
But if you want to make your games interesting, you can just say the whole thing is covered with depth 0 water, and that makes it cool. Yeah. So that doesn't cost you anything extra to enter in. You get +1 MP for depth 1. And that doesn't include any level changes that you have to make. So if you're on the edge of depth 1, then you'll have to pay for the depth 1 water hex itself and also for the level change. So bear that in mind. And then it's +3 for depth 2 and over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool, I got that right.
So it will slow you down quite a bit when you're trying to move through it.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
And the other thing that it does to slow you down is that you aren't allowed to enter depth 1 or greater at a run. If you try that, you'll just trip over and fall, I think is the gist that they're getting to across.
It's just not safe, so yeah.
Yeah, so you're not going to be running in water. Okay, so bear that in mind.
So light mechs are going to have a bit of an advantage.
Well, they'll have a higher movement,
so they can cover a few more hexes.
They've got the higher walk movement, so they can get a bit further than others. And if you decide to cover your whole map in depth 1 water, then light mechs will definitely have an advantage.
Yeah. You might want to consider swapping out your jump jets for underwater movement.
Personally, I would just take an awesome and just that was the other thing, was jumping movement.
Yeah.
So jumping movement is important. You can't technically jump into water. So what you're doing, this is cool, is you jump in to the hex, but technically what you're doing is you're getting above the hex, cutting your jump jets and dropping and landing.
Yep.
Okay, so you have to make a piloting skill check to land in depth 1 or greater water.
Yep. So in this example, if we have a look here on the map, so we've got a catapult which has a jump of 4. He can actually jump to here, which is a level 1 water.
Yep.
And while he's above the hex, he cuts his jump jets and basically does a semi-controlled fall. So you do your piloting checks.
Falling with style.
Yeah. So if you pass that, it's okay. If you fail, it's considered a fall, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're basically rolling a piloting skill roll every time you move into a water hex.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is a specific one for jumping. So not only is it costing you extra movement points to move around in, it's also costing you a piloting skill roll every time you want to move around. So if you've got a big lake of depth 1 water and you're trying to cross it, it's piloting skill, piloting skill, piloting skill, piloting skill. So,
yeah. So jump jets that are not in the legs are not affected. So if you're jumping in this, so a level 1 is basically waist height on a mech. So anything in the torsos, it's okay. Legs. Your jump jets will work fine in that. So you can jump out of water using those jump jets.
Yeah, but if they're in your legs, they won't fire. Anything that's submerged won't fire.
Yeah.
So your PSR to go into depth 1 is at a -1. For depth 2, it's just a flat roll. And for depth 3 and above, it's a +1.
Yeah, so you start getting penalties when it's getting deep.
Well, as you get deeper, it's harder and harder to land properly and move properly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our catapult lad there would be making a piloting skill check at a -1 in order to land safely in that hex. And then if he doesn't have any jump jets in his torso, he's stuck there. He'll have to walk out.
Which you can do. Like, there is still the minimum movement. Every mech can do a minimum movement as long as it's not into prohibited terrain. So, basically a level 1 water hex that's just a water hex is okay.
Is okay. So and normally, because you're not allowed to run into water, the minimum movement actually covers that. If you're using the minimum movement rule, you are technically running, and you are allowed to enter water.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing to
know.
But
you can run out of
water,
which is like, because they factor it based on the hex type that you're moving into, not the one that you leave. I think we talked about that in the other video.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned that before.
Yeah. So here he is again. So he's in his level 1. He can actually choose run as an option and then move out.
As long as he moves out, he's okay.
Pays the cost. So you're an elevation. So you're not paying the water hex cost to go here.
No, you're just paying the elevation change. I think that's basically movement.
Yeah.
I think that's basically movement.
Yeah. You want to talk about the piloting checks? We talked about piloting checks when they actually jump in there, but if you actually are forced to do a piloting skill check in water and you fail, which results in you falling, your damage is halved.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. And physical attacks underwater are halved as well.
That's
so
right.
Damage from a physical attack underwater. So if you had someone standing next to our catapult there and wanted to kick him, and they were both in water.
So they're currently both in level 1 in this example.
So a punch from the thunderbolt to the catapult would be at normal.
Yep.
But because their legs are underwater, if he kicks him, it's at half damage.
Yep.
So another thing to be.
Yeah. And the source of the attack, the elevation, so you can't, it has to be, to attack something underwater, you have to be underwater yourself.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah.
So they don't have like hatchets and things like that in this box set. They do have it in the main rules.
They're cool.
They are very cool. So a hatchet is basically, as you imagine, a big axe that they hold in their hands.
Yeah.
And it does kicking damage, but it is to the full body. But it does have an option to attack either the upper body or the legs. So you can choose. So in that example, if you're doing that and you choose to attack the legs, you can't do it.
Yeah. It would
because the source of the attack is out of water. So
the start of the attack is outside the water, so you can't do it. So water blocks line of sight unless you're both in the water.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting one because something like, let's put our thunderbolt and tell him he's going prone.
He's gone prone. So there's our catapult who wants to shoot at him. He's just gone prone in his movement. He's ended his movement there previously.
So if he's prone in level 1 water, he's technically submerged.
Yeah.
Okay, because mechs, when they lie down, they're only level 1. So he's submerged. Now, that breaks line of sight to the catapult. So the catapult can't shoot him.
No.
Unless you go down, I think if you go into level 1 water next to him, you'll be able to do it. But if you're up here and there's intervening water, then you can't shoot him. If you're here, then I think you're okay because there's no intervening hexes. You're in the next hex and you're in water, so you should be okay. I think.
Partial cover as well is pretty good. So if you're in water, you've got your partial cover.
Yep.
That also counts even if your opponent
is raised.
Is higher.
Yeah.
Because it sort of encompasses the whole hex. So anyone who's we did a video on LRM indirect fire.
Yes.
And it does mention in there that, we did mention the water in there, but it was worth mentioning again because it's quite good. It's quite good.
So normally if you're up higher and say you're standing behind a hill, if I'm up higher, then you don't get the partial cover and leg hits still count. But if you're in water, they get the partial cover and leg hits are ignored.
Yeah.
Even for indirect fire, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heat's a good one.
Heat's the big one.
Yeah. We did mention that. We mentioned it before. We've done all these videos and all these other bits like heat and all that sort of thing. We'll put the links up. But
lots of the rules that are out there in BattleTech will coincide with each other. So if we sound like we're repeating ourselves, it's because we are.
Yeah.
It's because we forgot what we did yesterday. Who are you again?
So a mech that's standing in level 1 water. So if you've got heat sinks in your legs, so generally that's like 4 singles or the clans later on they can fit double heat sinks in there.
Yeah, basically any heat sink that's underwater works at double efficiency.
Yeah.
So if you are really seriously overheated, you could lie down. You could go prone in level 1, submerge yourself, and I think the max you're allowed to get is a +6.
6. So yeah.
+6. So you have one heat sink that's operational in your leg. Instead of dissipating 1 point of heat, it now dissipates 2. And you can add an extra 6 that way.
Yeah. So this rule is, from what we've gathered, and we're pretty sure about it, it's for heat sinks that have been assigned criticals. So an engine will hold 10 heat sinks normally, but it's only for the heat sinks that have an actual critical location on your sheet. They're the ones that have to be submerged in the water.
Yeah, it's not your engine going underwater. It's those actually located heat sinks that help. And that's really good. If you are operating a high energy mech like an Awesome or something like that, standing in water.
Yeah.
That's a solid maneuver.
Yeah.
It's a really good way to keep yourself firing when you would otherwise be rolling to see if you're going to explode.
Let's have an example of a bit of combat involving water and physical attacks and stuff. So we're assuming standard pilot, so 4 gunnery, 5 piloting for this. So do we have name? No, this is Bazza over here.
That's Bazza over there, but let's ignore these two. These are just like plebs.
They're just plebs. They're not important in the big thing. They're just going to slug it out a bit.
Honky 1 and Stupid 2.
Stupid 2. So
Stupid 2
we have a Thunderbolt
standing in the water.
He's already in level 1. We've got a Catapult who wants to get into physical attacks. Okay.
So Honky 1 is going to move in, and he has to pay extra for movement into a woods, and he can't into water, and he can't
run. So he has to walk. So Catapult has a walk of 4, so he's 1 hex away. So he goes 1 to move in there, +1 to change elevation down, and +1 again because it's a level 1 hill.
Yeah. So
of water.
Of water. So it's cost him almost all his walking movement just to get into that one water hex.
Yeah.
So it really slows you down.
So he's not going to have any
mod
shooting back or whatever, and we'll assume he was standing still, so that keeps it nice and simple.
Waiting for the kick.
All right. So there's some shooting.
Yep.
Or do you want to go straight to physical attack?
Yeah. Let's just go to physical.
No shooting, whatever. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Because
the main thing to remember is that you will ignore leg hits because it counts as partial cover. If you get a leg hit, it ignores it, and you get the +1 for partial cover.
Yeah. So physical attacks. So let's start with the Catapult. Let's assume. So physical attacks use piloting. So he has a base of 5. He walks, so that's 6.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing for the Thunderbolt's movement, so we're still on 6. He gets a -2 for kicking.
Yep.
So 4. And no partial cover.
No,
because no partial cover because it starts underwater. Yeah. 4. That's pretty good. I got your rolls here. All right, so he tried to kick
and he failed.
All right.
I think Stupid 2 should have a kick back. What do you reckon?
Well, we'll see if he
failed. So
he failed a kick, so he's got to do a pilot.
So his PSR is at -1 for depth 1
depth
water.
1. 7, so that's okay.
That's okay.
So he did it.
All right, so he didn't fall over.
No.
Right.
So Numbnuts 2, he's going to kick back.
Numpty 3
Numpty
is
3
going to hurt him.
There's so many names. Right.
Let's see.
So he does it.
He's done
That's
it.
okay,
Right.
because it was 5, he didn't move, 5.
-2.
3. Nothing for him, 3.
Nothing for him, 3.
So that was good.
Yeah.
That's a good target number.
Okay.
All right, so he's got it. So we see where he kicks. So that's the right leg. So he is a 65-ton mech.
Yep.
So he does...
It's divided by 5 for kicking, isn't it?
Yep. So that's, what, 13?
Yeah.
So 13. Now, because he's in the water, you're halving damage. Rounded down.
Yeah, so it'll be 6.
So 6 damage. So it was on the right leg, so you apply 6. Because a location underwater took damage, again, it's not in this one, but it is in the Total Warfare, so we'll just do it. If you roll a 10 or more, that location is breached. Oh, it's a 10. Look at that. Wow. Poor Mr. Catapult. Numbnuts 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Idiot 3.
Yeah, so his leg has been breached. Now,
breached.
he's been kicked, so he's got to do a piloting for that.
Yep.
But, yeah, so now that's breached. He's got all these other penalties as well. So you've got hips and...
Yeah.
Upper leg load actuators and foot and
so all of that stuff in there is now considered gone, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he'll be doing multiple piloting checks with all of those penalties.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Let's just roll 1 dice. Okay,
oh,
so
he's
6
out.
is definitely a fail
he's
because you've got at least a +5 at least. So,
which means he's going to fall over into water, which means if he breaches his center torso, he's screwed.
Yep. So whatever 5 was on the location.
Oh.
Cheat sheet there.
Oh, cheat sheet there. After a fall is 2 hexsides left and left side.
Left side. Okay. Buh. So Catapult was 65 tons as well.
Yep.
So it's going to be
7.
Yeah.
6.5. It's divided by 10 for fall, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's going to take a...
Yep. So 7.
3, because it's rounded down.
Oh, it's rounded down.
So 3 points. So that goes to the left torso.
Left torso 7.
Yep.
Yeah, that will be the left torso.
Okay. So he's got plenty of armor there at this stage.
Yep.
So what we've got to do is now see if that's been breached. 8. So no, he's lucky there. That's okay.
Oh my god.
So you'd have to do a check to avoid falling damage to the mech warrior.
Which you failed.
Yep, so he goes to sleep.
Oh, PSR in water in depth 1 is a -1. Does that count?
Look at that.
Does that count? Yay! Numpty 2 stays
So
up.
that's not very good for him at all.
No.
He should have stayed out of the water. Really.
So water complicates your games, people. That's what we're saying here.
Yeah.
It makes it very, very interesting. And just imagine that whole map covered in level 1 with some, like, a couple of little islands maybe, or a couple of extra depth spots.
We have played on a map like that. There was a tournament.
Do you remember the game Hunchlock played where he blew the head off the commander? Yeah.
That
was all at depth 0.
Heads off.
Hey Simon, how you doing, buddy?
But that was interesting because it was slower movement to get between these islands, and everyone was just hoping that they didn't fall over.
It was insane. Yeah, it was good though.
But in that one example, you've got a healthy 65-ton mech.
Almost taken itself out of the game.
Yep, lost a leg. Yeah, he's toast.
Yeah,
toast.
He's almost been taken out of the game. He's got a chance to come back, but he's almost destroyed himself.
Yeah. So if he doesn't get out of that water, he's just going to start getting pummeled here, and you've got breaches, and that's it.
And with all that leg taken out, all of those locations in his leg taken out, that's going to make it very difficult for him to get back up.
Yeah.
So...
But on the plus side, no one else above can see him. At all.
On the downside, if he ejects, he's going to end up in the water. Yeah. I think we've got most of it.
Yeah. There are some other optional rules and things like that, so that cover other unit types. But like I said, we're not covering that in this video.
Yeah, I think in Total Warfare, in the main book, if a mech, say you take a lot of armor damage to your leg, you haven't gone critical, but there's a lot of armor damage. There's no armor left.
Yeah.
And you move that leg into water, that location is then destroyed.
Breaches.
It's breached.
Yeah.
So if you've got, say, weapons in your legs, then they don't operate anymore. It's as if they've been critical hit, but ammo doesn't explode.
No, that's right. Yeah. So as soon as you come out of water, it doesn't turn on again. It's ruined for the battle. So you've got to be careful.
I don't think that's in here, but it is in the Total Warfare. So that's something else to bear in mind.
In fact, it also talks about any location that's underwater that takes any type of damage. There's a chance on the 10 plus that it will breach anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. So you hit with a little laser, 3 points of damage. There's your leg gone, or there's your torso if you're fully underwater or something. So.
And we were talking about scenarios and things before. One of the ones that I've always wanted to try is like a depth 12 map. So the whole thing is underwater, and you can get submarines, you can get torpedo munitions, you can get all sorts of cool stuff happening. Depth charges. It's great.
There's options, lots of options.
And I just keep thinking about a Battle Master or an Awesome or something just plodding along the bottom of the ocean.
That's all it would do.
That would be cool.
Going like 1 or 2.
It'd only be able to move 1 or 2 hexes at most. And but having submarines floating around it and trying to ping it with stuff.
Some of the advanced, like I was saying before, some of the advanced tech for the clans, they converted jump jet location. So instead of acting as jump jets, it acts as underwater movement.
Yeah.
So your jump speed is how fast you can move underwater. So for a mech, that's really good.
Yeah, and you can get like battle armor and things like that that are specifically designed for underwater movement. And you can build your own. I mean, there's construction rules and things. You can build your own and you can give it a specific type of movement. But the possibilities for the water stuff is pretty much endless.
Yeah. Securing water in your games is pretty good, even if it's just to deny it to the enemy. So you get that extra heat sink benefit. You've got your partial cover.
Yeah. And you can write a scenario around it. You can have it as the only drinking water in the area or something like that. You can do all sorts of things with water.
Water purification plant, maybe that could be a objective.
And that's in the full rules. There's lots of naval vessels. You could have a scenario where you've got a lake and a river, and one side has like turrets and naval like river boats and stuff, and the other one has 3 or 4 mechs. They're trying to take the drinking water thing. There's all sorts of stuff you could do.
That's a fairly common thing for like pirates and bandits and things like that, because resources are pretty scarce, so they go do their raids.
Yeah.
Life on the periphery. It's tough. It's tough.
Dear.
Yeah. But I think that's it. Look, if we've missed anything and you have any questions or whatever, just leave some comments and we'll talk about it. Others talk about it with us.
Water opens up a vast depth of stuff.
Yeah.
Haha.
Badum. That's enough.
Anywho,
You're done.
I'm done.
We're done.
We're done.
Thank you.
Water.
See ya.
Bye, guys.